So around a month or so ago, the news came out that Elgton Jenkins was going to be, skipping some of the offseason workouts because he wanted the Packers to, make it more financially stable for him to play center. And because the Packers brought in Aaron Banks in free agency, Jenkins was moving from left guard to center. Centers make less money than left guards. And it's not really something that I think, right now, because Elgton Jenkins still has 2 years left on his deal. When the Packers paid him, they paid him as a guard. And so for the next 2 seasons, I would say he's reasonably compensated because it's not like the Packers are making him take a pay cut to move to center. If that was the case, that would be a much different situation. But it really does sound like the reason he's sitting out is, at least from my understanding, what I thought, seeing that initial news was shared, this thought about a month or so ago, that if you're Elgton Jenkins and you only have 2 years left in your deal, I don't know if the Packers would keep him around after this deal, just because typically in times past, as guys get close to 30, which Elgton Jenkins is almost 30, he's getting up there, they typically move on. And so when Elgton Jenkins does go elsewhere, a year, 2 years, because I'm pretty sure that they save a good amount of money on the cap if they were to release him next year. Not that they will, but that's something that's important to note. Elgton Jenkins has to know that if he gets moved to center, if he were to, let's say, hit free agency in 2 years, teams are probably going to try to pay him less because he's been a center, and maybe they want him to play center, and if that's the case, he'll make less money being a center than he would if he were a guard. And so while it sounds like Elgton Jenkins has no issue playing center, the issue he seems to have is maybe how he's going to be compensated in the future. And so he wants the Packers, according to Rob Demovsky about a month ago, to make it more financially stable for him. And Rob Demovsky brought up, ESPN reporter, some of the options. He doesn't really have much, if any, guaranteed money left on his deal. So the Packers could potentially guarantee some of that money. And so now the question is this something that is going to get solved soon? Because I would love to say it's going to get figured out, no doubt. If I had to guess, I would say that's my assumption just because of how important Elgton Jenkins is. I would guess that maybe right before training camp, the first few days of training camp, something gets worked out. But with these kinds of situations, you never know, what could happen. Because the question for me is, how much more does Elgton Jenkins want? What exactly does he want? And are the Packers willing to give Elgton Jenkins what he wants? Because if they're not, things can go south in these type of situations if, the player doesn't feel that he's getting the right compensation. And if you're Elgton Jenkins, because he is a very solid offensive lineman, I think he has that ability to say, you know what, I'm not going to play center. If the Packers don't want to give him whatever kind of financial stability for the future he's looking for, I think that's something that could be problematic for the Packers, just because I don't think Elgton Jenkins is a guy that you can just say, it's not a big deal, let's just move on from him and trade him, something like that. He's someone who's going to be very crucial to this Packers offensive line in 2025. And so I do think Elgton Jenkins does have at least some kind of leverage in this situation. And so my thoughts are that the Packers should, I don't exactly know what Jenkins is looking for, but I think it's reasonable for them to maybe guarantee a little bit more money on the final 2 years of his deal. I would assume they'd rather not, but they are asking him to move to a position where in the future he would make less money. So I think it's a reasonable ask to say, because he's probably going to make less money in the future if he stays at center, going to another team, hey, can you guys compensate me? I'm willing to do this, but I just want a little more compensation because I'm moving to a position that makes less money, even though I'm perfectly capable of playing a top-tier play at the guard position. So I don't exactly know when this will get done. If I had to guess, I would say right before training camp, right when training camp starts. It seems that lots of these deals get done around training camp when things get going, because you want to get guys their deals done early in camp so that they can get out there and build that chemistry with this new offensive line, because it's going to be different than last year. A lot of the same guys, but you have guys like Jordan Morgan, who could potentially move to tackle. You have Jenkins moving to center. You just want this offensive unit to be able to practice as much as possible together come training camp. So hopefully this gets done right before training camp. I assume things will get ironed out, but at the same time, you never know what could happen in these type of discussions. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.